One of the number one questions that I get asked all the time is how do you work age leads? So a lot of folks have been introduced to age leads. They find them super compelling because they're an affordable way to get hand raisers, people who have actually shown a specific interest in the product or service that you sell. Maybe it's insurance, maybe it's mortgage, maybe it's final expense. And so, again, it seems like a very compelling source of leads and prospects and a way to fuel your sales in your particular industry. But they're not really sure what to do with the age leads when they get them. Because when you buy age leads, or you're just pulling age leads out of your CRM. So again, old leads that are in your CRM, or maybe you're a new agent or a new loan officer and you've taken over someone else's database full of old leads. So all this works the same, right? They've taken that over, or you've taken that over, but you just don't know where to start, right? So you see this long list, maybe it's a spreadsheet, maybe it's in your CRM, and invariably you'll just start calling, right? And you'll call through those, you'll get super frustrated, right? Because again, they're aged, right? So you're going to run into a variety of scenarios that are, truly to be expected from age leads, right? Some of them have already kind of satisfied their need for that product and service. They've already become a customer somewhere. Maybe they've even become a customer inside of your own organization, and it just wasn't documented properly or whatever. So maybe they've already been satisfied. Maybe something's happened in the market. Like when I'm recording this, interest rates have gone up significantly and sort of in an unprecedented, rapid way in the mortgage market. And so maybe the rates has just kind of priced them out of the market. So they're not currently interested, or maybe they just don't know the strategies that would potentially allow them to still buy a home with, slightly higher interest rate, or maybe do that refinance that makes sense, even though the interest rate might be a little bit higher than they would like it to be. Or insurance, maybe there's a different priority. So there's a whole variety of reasons that when you just start calling through these, you're going to run into a lot of objections, and actually a lot of them that you just won't even be able to overcome, right? The objections are legitimate. They're it's not the appropriate time for them to get, and that can be really frustrating. So more than, and I say this for all sales processes, but sales, to me, when I'm kind of teaching and training, I always talk about sales simply a sorting and filtering process. That really helps with the mindset, right? I want to quickly move through these prospects, move through these leads, and filter and sort them to find the ones that really need the product and service. I don't want to have to, obviously, I don't want to force somebody into making a decision. I don't want to have to coerce them or use some sort of fancy logistic, linguistic tricks in order to trick them into saying yes, right? I want them to truly want and need the product or service that I'm selling. So you have to go through this filtering and sorting. And if you just get some age leads and you just pound through them on the phone, it's going to be super frustrating because you're going to do all that filtering and sorting one-on-one, with that person on the phone, or maybe even face-to-face if you're doing something like door knocking and that sort of thing. So when you're working leads, I like to use this framework, and it breaks down like this. So the first thing I want to do is, to the best of my ability, I want to do some of that filtering and sorting up front. I want to look at that list. I want to segment it. If I'm buying age leads, I want to pull out exactly the type of consumer that I think would need this product. If I've got some rate information, I might segment by that to look for, sort of rate indications that might put them in the right spot to do this. If it's final expense, I may be looking for age ranges and demographics, right? So if there is something to my product that lends itself to sorting the data, I certainly want to do that. The other thing that I might do in segmenting that list is I might segment it by when that person actually inquired, right? So I might sort all the ones who have inquired in the last 30 days. And then I may have another segment that is maybe 180 days or 90 days. So they're much older. And then what that allows me to do is, by doing that segmentation, the next step in the framework is to personalize my approach. So if I've been able to segment that larger body of age leads into some smaller segments, then I can build campaigns, right? Because I'm going to use some tools and some automation to do this filtering and sorting, so I don't have to do every single one by phone, right? But I want to break that down so that I can personalize them. So if I'm talking to final expense, I can talk to them, in a certain way. If let me use a better example. Let's say I have the way I've segmented them is by when they inquired. So things that were in the last 30 days, then I might actually write an initial email, or because it's been so close to that initial inquiry, I might even use a text message that says, hey, it's been a couple weeks since you inquired. I wanted to follow up with you and see if you were able to get the mortgage information you were looking for, because we haven't been able to connect, or something like that, right? Whereas the longer ones, 90 plus days, I might say something like, hey, we've been going, I'm a newer agent here. I've been going through our database, and I noticed that you inquired, several months ago about this. I want to touch base with you and see if you were able to kind of get that need met, right? And again, I'm being sort of general here, but you can get more personal with that. So again, if it's something far away, maybe you're using hey, I'm just checking back in on you. I want to follow up. I want to see if you ever were able to satisfy that. Something really near. I might not even, if it's within 30 days, I might actually write that initial outreach in such a way to act like they had just inquired. It's like, hey, I noticed you just submitted, some information via the website asking about this. Let me help you. Can we schedule an appointment? That sort of thing. So it helps you to personalize that outreach by doing that segmentation. But to the best of your ability, you want to personalize. Now, the other thing that I suggest, especially on age leads, because some of the data, because it is aged, could have changed or may not be perfectly accurate, or actually when consumers fill out forms, a lot of times they don't actually get everything right? They'll fat finger something, or maybe they'll just purposely put something incorrect into that information because they don't want to disclose, this or that, or whatever the reason may be. So sometimes the data is not perfect. So you also want to be cautious not to over personalize. So when I talk about personalizing, it's usually personalizing in the sense that it becomes very obvious when you make that outreach as to, one, why you're calling me, right? I'm calling you because you've shown some interest in getting an insurance rate quote, right? And then how I got your information, right? Hey, you submitted, you filled out a form on the internet, or you filled out a form on the website, asking for some information about a rate quote. I'd love to help you. Let's schedule an appointment, right? Giving them some indication as to how you got their information is another key point of personalization, right? The next part of the framework is to use multiple channels, right? So we talked a little bit about phone calls, and that can be kind of a frustrating place to start. But by using these things together, one, you can make them more productive, and of course less frustrating. So I gave you some examples of email. I always like to start with email if you have permission. Text messaging is great. It's actually a really high response rate sort of mechanism, but of course with text messaging you have to be careful. You have to make sure you have the proper consent and those sorts of things. So I definitely would say use email. Follow that with a phone call. Right? That kind of works together too, because one of the things that I like to do with an email and a phone call, and this is kind of a sample cadence that I've used quite effectively, is I will send out an email telling them that, hey, I want to help you. This is who I am, that sort of thing. You send that email out, and then quickly thereafter, in the same day, you're going to actually make a phone call. We know nobody answers the phone anymore. Probably going to end up being a voicemail. So you're going to leave a voicemail. Nice thing about voicemail is it doesn't have all the filters that email and that sort of thing does. So they're going to see right off the bat that a voicemail was left, and then nobody listens to voicemail anymore, right? It's a text translation. So it's essentially like sending a text message, right? But it's just a voicemail. You made the call. It's completely compliant. You don't have to worry about all those text messaging rules and that sort of thing, but it kind of acts the same way. So have a good voicemail script, and it should be something like this. Is like, hey, this is Bill from so-and-so insurance company. I just sent you, no need to return my call. I'm just reaching out to see if you want to follow up on that request that you made for an insurance quote. No need to return my call. I just sent you an email. Take a look at that. Let's schedule a time. right? So there's a couple of different things in that voicemail script that are really important. One, have it scripted. So you say it off a little bit cleaner than I said it, right? Because I kind of just did it off the top of my head, and you can see the problems with that, right? I sort of stumbled around it a little bit. Although sometimes that's not bad, right? Because it makes it feel natural and authentic. But at the same time, you do want to have a good, clean script. You want to articulate it very well so that that text translation, transcription happens efficiently and accurately. So that it'll pop up in their voicemail as a transcript. And then the other thing that I think is key, and I've had a lot of success with this, is to tell them no need to call me back. Just take a look at that email. So it does two things. One, it lets them off the hook. They don't feel like you're pressuring them to get on the phone, right? But it also helps that email, right? Because it's going to get that email opened. It may even get that email clicked on and responded to. And so it's going to help your deliverability on your emails, because your emails are going to have a much higher open rate because you're using these two channels together. The other channel that I love to get in here as well is to take that aged lead file, load it up into Facebook, and create a custom audience out of it. The nice thing about B2C sort of lead generation and leads are that oftentimes they're using personal emails. So when you load that up to Facebook, Facebook's going to match that up to users on Facebook, and you're going to get a nice custom audience of people who are interested in insurance or interested in mortgage or interested in final expense, whatever that lead type was. You already know they're interested. And then when you run just a small amount of ad dollars against that, with your offer, they're going to start to see you or your brand pop up in their Facebook feed. And so now when they get that email and they get that phone call from you, then they sort of put a face and a name together, and all this starts to work together. So using those multiple channels is a really effective way to enhance your success with aged leads. The fourth step in this framework is to offer incentives. Now, this may sound a little weird at first, but I do like to say it like that, right? We're not offering them money or offering them something in order to reach out to you, but you want to give them something valuable that feels like an incentive to work with you. So a lot of times in a second or third email, I will actually link them to some valuable content or some additional information about the type of insurance product they were inquiring about, or the type of mortgage that, again, by buying aged leads or using aged leads, you know exactly what they were looking for, right? So you can actually build some content that gives them some more information about making that kind of decision, or informs them more about that type of product. Now, this does two things. One, you're doing more than the other person, right? Because everybody else is just pounding on the phone to them, and they're just me. You know, call me, talk to me, so that I can give you a hard pitch, right? In this particular case, you've done kind of a nice gentle cadence, and on that second or third email, you're giving them some content. The nice thing about the content is they can consume it at their leisure, and it also has this other neat effect. And I think this is really important to this type of sales process, is it gives them the confidence. Now, keep in mind, somebody buying insurance or getting a mortgage, they probably don't do that very often. And they don't know very much about that, right? And you're the expert. That's why they need to get on the phone. They need to talk to you because you're the expert and you can guide them and all those sorts of things. But because they don't know a lot about that, they feel intimidated, right? They feel at a deficiency. And so they're nervous. They're anxious about having that call with you, about scheduling that appointment, because they feel at a disadvantage. By giving them some content, by maybe giving them a PDF they can download or some information that they can read, that gives them additional confidence in, okay, I know what we're talking about. I know a little bit about what I should expect on this phone call. I know a little bit about how mortgage rates work, or I know a little bit more about how this insurance works, or I know the right questions. Even in this content, you can tell them the questions they should ask, right? So you can help to give them confidence to go in and engage with you as a salesperson. So when I say offer incentives, give them some value and make them comfortable. Get them over their anxiety of having that conversation with a salesperson. And then the fifth and last step is probably the most important. You have to create usually with automation, but also with some of your manual tasks and processes, right? You want to create a sales cadence, a very organized, systematized way of following up. So email is a great way. You can put drip emails, so you can literally schedule emails to go out every so often, and thereby making sure that you have consistent follow up. Even if you're not paying attention, you're working on other deals and that kind of stuff. You want that system to work while you're doing other sort of higher value task, like actually having a phone call or attending a scheduled appointment and those sorts of things. Have that email drip campaign happening. You also want to have some automation around the tasking, right? So say, hey, just set me a tickler in my CRM that tells me when certain of my contacts haven't been touched in the last 2 months, and it'll just remind me to, okay, here's a list of people that I need to go back and follow up with a phone call, or I need to send out an email blast to, or those sorts of things. So set up some automation and some processes and systems that will allow you to apply consistent follow-up to that age list. So again, 5-step framework, just real quick, going back over that. We want to segment that age lead list the best that we can into some logical groupings such that you can do step number 2. You want to personalize your approach. You don't try to over personalize it, but try to make it obvious as to why you're contacting them and what you're contacting them about and how you got their information. Step 3, try to use multiple channels if you can. My favorite, email, phone, Facebook ads. You can throw text messaging in there, again, if you have proper permissions and those sorts of things, but using multiple channels. Offer incentive, value to actually set them at ease so that they can feel confident about going into that scheduled appointment with you, and also feel like you're doing the extra effort to inform them and educate them about the product and service that they're looking for. And then the 5th and final step is just simply creating a system that allows you to make sure that you're consistently following up and having multiple touches that are going to be required in order to help these age leads convert. So I wish you the best of luck. We'll have a lot more resources here. Check out the other things and links that we have in the description, and I'll see you on the next video.